noticed from my conversation with Nurul Izzah is that despite the many difficulties and challenges that she faces in her life, they don't distract her from pursuing her dreams of creating a more open, more democratic and a better country for herself and for her children to live in. Dreams that I also see shared by young Malaysians from whatever political parties they are.
Another young Malaysian I met is Wan Muhammad Firdaus. Firdaus is a bright, foreign-educated young man who now works for the government. Like Nurul Izzah, he seems impatient to see changes in the way the country is run and how the political system in Malaysia works.
Firdaus, I mean, I see in you, you're a young man. Obviously, the future of Malaysia will belong to people like you, the smart, educated, and very concerned about how the country is run and perhaps your wish for your children and the kind of Malaysia that they grow up in. And tell me a little bit, what are your dreams of the sort of Malaysia that you would like to see develop into in your lifetime?
I think the most important thing about Malaysia that I want to see, hopefully in my lifetime, is a more understanding and more open Malaysia. Understanding in the sense that we actually embrace our pluralism rather than tolerate them. At the moment, when we talk about pluralism in Malaysia, we are actually talking more about tolerating rather than embracing. It is something which I blame almost entirely to the education system, especially the primary education system. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of room for us to improve. I have hope that the political divide would do the right thing rather than the popular thing. If we were to wait to do the popular thing, it would be very difficult for us to, for example, create one singular primary school system rather than having a Malay system or a Mandarin system or a Tamil system or an English system, which is really divisive. So that's number one. Secondly, I would want to see an open Malaysia. Open in
more
the sense...
democratic?
Democratic is one thing. I would like to think that in Malaysia, we do have democracy, but what we don't have is the real understanding on how democracy should work. I mean, for example, the basic idea that we have to agree to disagree, I mean, that alone is something quite alien amongst our politicians, amongst our community leaders. I probably think that this is because we have not been brought up in an open system. As a matter of fact, we were brought up in a very patronizing system.
Well, you are a cadre of UMNO, which is, one of the, the backbones of politics in Malaysia. Now, how would you like to see that evolve or be reformed in order to be able to fulfill these dreams?
UMNO is supposed to be a party that intends to help the Malays. UMNO is supposed to be a party that supposedly build up the Malays. What I find in UMNO now is that in reality, no one is talking about the Malays. No one is really concerned about the Malays, but more of what is the interest of my Malay and your Malay. You see, my Malay being my Malay community and your Malay community. So in that sense, it is already divisive. This is where I'm talking about honesty. You see, we have to be really honest whether or not we are helping the Malays. My generation, for example, we go through a boarding school system where they're only all Malays. Is that a good thing? After myself now working in corporate Malaysia, I find it not useful at all, because I find that my other Malay friends who went through a more co-ed and a more mixed national school, where there are Malays, Chinese, Indians, Kadazans, Ibans and whatever not, they turn out to be better because diversity actually opens up your mind. So this is another example whereby we think that we are helping the Malays. Actually, we are not.
Now, I see you're very critical, you're very opinionated, and do you see that your views and the views of young people like you Are they being heard?
I think a lot of young Malaysians now are very impatient. Whether or not the government is listening, to be fair, there has been a lot of effort by the government, especially the Prime Minister, trying to open up to the young people. Now, in my opinion, the problem is that because the bureaucracy itself are filled by people of a different generation, even though they want to open up, but they are unable to open up. I always tell my friend, it's like, the chicken talking to the duck. You see, you just don't understand the lingo. It's just different. So that is why it's very important for both political divide, let's not talk about government, but that's the political divide. They need to be represented by people of the younger generation. Now, this is a fundamental problem rather than a problem of your intention or of your want to listen to your young people. You just have to accept the fact that you must change your bureaucracy of the party, the bureaucracy of the government. You must get more young people involved within the system itself to listen to and engage with other young people outside the system.
Thank you very much, Firdaus.
Thank you so much.
To give an update on the latest situation in Malaysia and what lies ahead in the country's future, I asked Malaysia's renowned columnist and observer, Karim Razlan.
Malaysia is in transition. There is a very high degree of frustration and unhappiness with the way that the country is governed, with the lack of civil liberties and the degree of corruption. But Malaysians don't care who will bring those changes. If the Barisan and UMNO can reform themselves and show that they can be a moderate changing force, they can hold power. But if they fail, they will be ousted. So we're at a 50-50 situation. What Malaysians want is a government that listens to them. The reality, Bersih was a non-event. It was an event which was made much larger because of the poor response and the awkwardness and, to be frank, the ineptness of the Barisan government. Had they treated it as they should have done, as a relatively minor demonstration, it would have had no impact. Instead, they got very crass, very heavy-handed and turned it into a major event. We definitely need a young leader who wants to connect with the people and wants to lead with the people by persuading them, by ordering them, by controlling the media, controlling things. That is the paradigm of politics from the 70s and 80s. It will not return. Even in Singapore, Singaporean leaders are having to come to face with the reality of the new, much more flat political environment with social media. And the young people, Firdaus and Nurul, are representatives of this new generation who are engaged.
Young people everywhere are the voices of the future. We see what's happening in the Middle East, where dissatisfaction with the way things run are changing the very fabric of society, toppling long-seated authoritarian governments. It remains to be seen whether this is the path that Malaysia will take. But what is clear is that the future of any country belongs to the young. And that's all for tonight's episode. Don't forget to join me next month where we meet another figure who makes a difference to our world here on Face to Face with Desi Anwar, bringing you the world.